Hello everyone, my name is Evelyn Karimi Mutiria. I am the Group 6 leader and the group members are Wede Esther Machuma, Deborah Kimunto Omwenga, Nancy Nyazi Karisa, Jael Chemili and Sharon Eskibor. We are going to be taking you through the impact of colonialism in Africa until modern days, and I am going to do the introduction part. Colonialism in Africa left a lasting impact that continues to shape the continent's political, economic, and social landscape. The colonial powers imposed artificial borders, disrupted traditional governance systems, and exploited resources for their own benefit. So, examples of the resources we have raw materials for their industries back to the European countries. We also have the traditional ruling system. It was also disrupted because we used to have chiefs. We used to have councils of elders, and they are all not there right now because there was colonialism. So colonialism has deeply shaped Africa's political, economic, and social structures, and its effects are still felt today. Although African nations have gained independence, many of the issues they face, such as political instability, economic dependency, and cultural erosion, can be traced back to colonial rule.
Hello, I'm Nancy Karisa and I'm going to take you through the economic impacts. We are starting with the positive economic impacts, and number one, we have infrastructure development. Here, colonial powers built roads, railways, and telecommunication systems, which facilitate trade and economic activities. The next point is the introduction of modern agriculture. Cash crops such as cocoa, and tea were introduced, leading to commercial farming. The other point is monetary and banking systems. European colonialists introduced formal banking, currency, and financial institutions, which became the foundation of modern economies. The next point is education and skill development. Some Africans gained education and technical skills that later helped in post-independence economic development. And the last positive economic impact is integration into global trade. Here, the colonies were incorporated into the global market, allowing them to export raw materials. We also have the negative impacts, and the first negative impact is exploitation of resources. Africa's natural resources were extracted primarily for the benefit of European economies, leaving African nations economically dependent. The next one is destruction of local industries. Indigenous industries were undermined as European goods flooded African markets, causing economic dependency. The other impact is unequal land distribution. Large tracts of fertile land were taken from Africans and given to European settlers, leading to land dispossession and poverty. And we have forced labor and low wages. The Africans were often forced to work in mines, plantations, and railways under harsh conditions for fewer wages. Then we have economic dependence. African economies were structured to serve colonial interests, making them reliant on exporting raw materials and importing manufactured goods. And lastly, we have artificial borders and economic disruptions. Colonial powers created arbitrary borders that divided ethnic groups and disrupted pre-existing trade networks. I'll stop there and I'm welcoming the next presenter. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Jail Chemeli. I'm going to take you through the political impacts of colonialism. The first is imposition of artificial borders. Colonial powers often drew borders without regard to existing ethnic, linguistic, or cultural boundaries. This has led to inter-ethnic conflicts, nationalist movements seeking border revisions, and difficulties in establishing cohesive national identities. The second point is centralized state structures. The colonial administrations often imposed centralized systems of governance, disrupting or replacing traditional forms of political organization. This resulted in legacy of authoritarianism in some post-colonial states and weakened local governance structures and difficulties in establishing democratic institutions. The third point is political instability and conflict. The colonialism, abrupt departure of colonial powers frequently created power vacuums, leading to political instability, coups, civil wars, and conflicts over resources and power. The next one is the legacy of authoritarianism. Colonial rule often relied on authoritarian practices, which influenced the development of post-colonial political systems such as the use of force to maintain control and weak rule of law. The next one is the manipulation of ethnic and social divisions. Colonial powers sometimes exacerbated existing ethnic and social divisions or created new ones through divide and rule tactics favoring certain groups over others. This created or reinforced social hierarchies. Neocolonialism was another impact. Even after formal independence, many former colonies have remained economically and politically dependent on their former colonizers. This is through economic agreements that favor former colonial powers and political influence exerted through aid and other means. The last point is impact on democratic development. Colonial rule often hindered the development of democratic institutions, leading to weak civil societies, lack of experience with democratic governance, and difficulties in establishing free and fair elections. I welcome the next presenter.
Hello, my name is Deborah Kimunto, and I'm going to take you through the social impacts of colonialism. In this, there is positive and also there is negative impacts. I'm going to start from the positive impacts. The first one is the introduction of formal education. Schools were built and literacy levels improved, allowing Africans to access new knowledge and skills. In this point, the people who colonized Africa came and they built schools for this. For example, the Makerere University, which made the Africans to up their knowledge, and also they become even teachers. The second point is modern healthcare systems. Western medicine reduced mortality rates by introducing hospitals, vaccines, and sanitization practices. The third point is infrastructure development. Roads, railways, and communication networks were established connecting. The fourth one is urbanization. Cities grew up administrative and economic centers, creating hubs for trade and development. The fifth one is religious transformation. Christianity and Islam spread, leading to new social structures and changes in cultural practices. The sixth one is abolition of some harmful practices. Some colonial policies helped and practices like slavery and certain traditional rituals. I'm going to also present about the negative impacts. The first one is destruction of African cultures. Indigenous traditions, languages, and government systems were undermined or replaced by European ways. The second one is forced labor and exploitation. Africans were used as cheap labor on plantations and mines, often under harsh conditions. The third one is social division and ethnic conflict. Colonial borders ignored specific groups, leading to division and post-independence conflicts, loss of identity and heritage. Many Africans adopted European lifestyle, losing touch with the traditional roots. I'm going to welcome the next presenter who is going to talk about the modern day impacts of colonialism.
My name is Esther Wede. We are going to discuss about the modern day impact of colonialism. To begin with, we are going to start with the positive impact of colonialism. Number one is infrastructure development. Many countries have benefited from colonialism in infrastructure. For example, we have developed roads, railways, ports, which are continue to facilitate transport and even trade, like the transportation of trade goods to the market and also some services. Number two is educational advancement. We have the establishment of schools and a university, which introduced the formal education. Number three is health care improvement. Colonial administration often introduced modern medical practices and healthcare system, which improved the public health outcomes and reduced mortality rate from various diseases. For example, we had diseases like malaria, which was not discovered, and so we find that it was more dangerous to Africans. But due to coming of the colonialists, we find that they have introduced the medicine which cured diseases like malaria. We have a cultural exchange. Colonialism led to exchange of ideas, technologies, and cultural practices. We have a cultural exchange. Colonialism led to exchange of ideas, technologies, and cultural practices, enriching societies and fostering innovation in various fields. For example, science and government. We have economic integration. Some regions became integrated into global economy, gaining access to new markets, resources, which can contribute to economic growth and development. Next point, we have legal and political framework. The introduction of legal system and governance structure can provide a foundation for modern statehood, contributing to establishment of rule of law and democratic institutions in some cases. After looking at the positive impact, we are moving to the negative impact of colonialism. Under negative impact, we have exploitation of resources. Many formerly colonized nations continue to experience the exploitation of resources by multinational corporations, leading to environmental degradation and economic dependency. For example, resources like minerals. We see that the colonial powers have taken some regions that have minerals, and these have led to exploitation of the Africans. We have cultural integration. Indigenous culture, language, tradition have often suppressed or marginalized resulting into loss of cultural identity and heritage theft. We have another point, which is social inequality. Colonialism established and reinforced social hierarchies based on races and ethnicity. Finally, we have political instability. The arbitrary borders drawn during colonial rule often ignored ethnic and cultural division, resulting to ongoing conflict, civil wars, and political instability in many regions. So I welcome the next presenter who will do the conclusion of our topic.
Okay, so my name is Evelyn Karimi. I'll be taking you through the conclusion part. So colonialism disrupted African societies, economies, and governance structures, and its effects are still visible today. However, Africa is gradually reclaiming its independence in various sectors, with growing efforts to build strong economies and political systems. Thank you. This was Group 6, and we are really grateful.